All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having a good day. And I wanted to go over some news that I just came across that is pretty interesting to me. So, this video, we're going to go over the antitrust lawsuit that Google just lost, something that I didn't even know had happened. Apparently, it's a lawsuit that kicked off over a year ago at this point. I figure if this is news for me and this is catching my interest, it might catch yours too. So, let's go ahead and get into this, and we'll go over some of the key points of the lawsuit and why they were getting sued by the Department of Justice in the first place. All right, so Google just lost an antitrust lawsuit that's been going on since early last year, but what the lawsuit was about is what we're going to get into. On January 23rd of last year, 2023, the Justice Department, along with multiple attorneys from different states, filed a civil antitrust suit against Google for monopolizing multiple digital advertising technology products in violation of sections 1 and 2 of Sherman Law Act, or the Sherman Act. So for those who don't know, the Sherman Act is a law that prescribes the rule of free competition and restricts illegal or unjust monopolies in a market. In other words, everybody should be able to conduct their business fairly without the outside influence of their competitors, as well as it's implied that it needs to be legal in the first place. The filed complaint against Google was that Google used anti-competitive, exclusionary, and unlawful conduct to eliminate or severely diminish any threat to its dominance over the digital marketing technology sector of the market. So basically, whenever Google felt like another company was coming up and they felt threatened, they didn't want the competition, they didn't want to be possibly dethroned as a number one brand when it came to searching for digital information, it would use illegal or unethical methods to get rid of that competition, or mainly through acquisitions or buying those companies out so that those companies would fall under the Google umbrella. This allowed Google to rule over the digital advertising space with pretty much no competition for a long time, like for the past couple decades at least, as an illegal monopoly. By the way, when it comes to monopoly, and you might be thinking of the game Monopoly, which essentially gets this concept through, but especially as kids, we didn't realize it, I think. But a monopoly means that you're basically the only entity or organization with access to a certain space or resource. So if you're in the desert, if your area is surrounded by desert, and you are the only one with access to oasis water, and it's actually there, you ain't just hallucinating, and you would have a monopoly on it. So as a result, if you happen a monopoly on it, if you know a bunch of other people in that area are in pain for water, like they're desperate for water, and you're the only one that knows where it's at, chances are you'll be able to easily manipulate everybody else in that space to give or do whatever it is you want, because they want what you need or have that they need to survive. So as far as the guilty verdict and statements, we're going to fast forward about a year and a half up to this point, and the verdict for this case finally has come to a conclusion for the suit. They finally have come to a decision. And the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, D.C., has come to the decision that Google is guilty of being a monopolist and acting to maintain its monopoly, violating the Sherman Act in the process. So again, they were trying to be the only one with access to the digital advertising space of the market. And whenever another company was coming around doing similar things, doing the same thing, they may have actually posed a threat to Google's dominance in that space. Google would find some ethical and maybe illegal ways to remove them, whether that meant buying the company outright or doing some other things to just remove them from the space altogether, or at the very least, block out their name from being seen by the general public so that we wouldn't even know those companies were there in the first place, which means we weren't going to be able to be like, hey, what's this product do? This is similar to Google, but it does some other stuff. Maybe it's actually better. And then you know how social media is, especially on TikTok. It takes one person to start talking, somebody else starts talking, somebody else starts talking. Next thing you know, people start thinking, hey man, you need to leave this Google product alone and mess with DuckDuckGo or Brave or whatever these other browsers and search engines are, right? Because they actually do things that Google doesn't do. But if that was to happen on a large enough scale, Google would start to noticeably lose a good amount of money, and nobody wants that. Google established many anti competitive contracts with companies such as the other big tech players to block out competitors such as DuckDuckGo, Microsoft's Bing, and some other ones as well. Naturally, Google also charged very high prices for these exclusive deals. So, as far as the future, and just what I think could happen in the future, but what's kind of expected now that the verdict has come in, is since this case focused on Google's behavior to block out competition, thus expanding its digital advertising sector and brand of Google and maintaining a monopoly over it, the main thing we can expect to change in the future is how do we search for digital information? Because it's pretty much cultural at this point. Whenever you know you need an answer to something, you're just curious, you need it for class, you need, something maybe like at the drop of a dime, trying to finesse something, whatever it is. And you ask your homeboy or homegirl, and they're like, man, I don't know what that is, Google it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that was normal really across the world at this point, but definitely here in the States. It's pretty much cultural that for people to really only go to Google to look up information. If you use anything like Microsoft Bing, which I've used it, it's not bad, but chances are you're only doing that when it comes to using like your work laptop like I do, because Microsoft, I guess, is the main browser that we use, or at least can be, depending on how your systems are designed and stuff and the browser to use and all that. Sometimes you use Bing and you just don't think about it. It's not a big thing. Honestly, I would say Bing's interface might be a little bit nicer than Google's, but in the limited amount of times I've used it, that's just my beginner opinion. But everyone gravitates towards Google to find all the information that they need, whether they're studying, doing homework assignments, and a bunch of other stuff. To just look up a quick fact real quick, everyone's gravitated towards Google. But now it might be a game changer because Google was blocking out smaller brands aside from Bing, which is the only company, well, Microsoft being the only company that kind of goes toe to toe with Google on that. Even though Google is still bigger than Bing, people know about Bing. It's just not nearly as big. But there may be or have been other competitors that were in that space or trying to get into that space, and Google just completely blocked them. So we're probably going to start seeing some new names pop up, but that also leads to a good amount of opportunity there. According to the Washington Post, one of the changes that we can look forward to is the possibility that Google can be forced to let other companies access its search technology or its essential data to create search engines with the technical chops of Google, but without Google's influence. One of the main things about that being the lack of advertisements that is just plaguing Google and has for years now at this point. Apparently Google was coming out of pocket for as much as $20 billion to make Google search engine the main search engine for Apple devices. But with this verdict, Apple may actually join Google and Microsoft and finally create their own proprietary search engine and complete the big three trifecta in that sense. As far as the big name companies, we can look forward to that. But this also opens up a lane of opportunity for people who may have the technical ability, chops, and funds to create their own customized and personalized yet safe search engine that may actually take over Google's spot. Push Microsoft, Bing, and Apple. If they do decide to join that market, they'll push them out of that market, or they'll just dominate. So that's another lane that maybe some people can look into if that catches their eye. But yeah, guys, there are some other takeaways from the article, but those are some of the key details that personally caught my eye. Ultimately, the lane of opportunity that, if you're into it, create your own search engine, put your own money into it if you have the funds to do so. And who knows, you might see some game-changing products push into that space sooner than we think. But other than search engines finally getting the shine they deserve from small tech geeks, as well as new competition popping up, Yeah, that's just interesting to me. So that's what I really wanted to focus up on. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and leave this video here. If you have any feedback for me, just your general thoughts on the matter, go ahead and share that stuff with me in the comment section below. If you have anything else you think I should cover in relation to this topic or any other topics like it, go ahead and let me know. In the meantime, I'll see you guys in the next one.